strikeouts in a game. 20.
Swung on and driven to deep left. And a high. Number 8. Yankees win. Yankees win. Bernie Williams homers deep in the left field seat to lead off the 11th inning on a 1-run finish. And the Yankees beat the Orioles 5-4 to win Game 1 of the American League Championship Series. Burn, baby, burn. He's done it again.
There it goes! Turning into history. He's done it. He has done it. 62. Aaron Judge is the American League single-season home run leader. The AL King, Case closed.
What is going on, baseball fans? Once again, we are back at it here for Dave. I am Jeremy Laracuenta, and this is the Baseball Banter Broadcast. And we are back doing our series, The State of the Franchise. From championship glory to rebuilding years, every team has a story. And the story that we're discussing today is that of the New York Mets.
But before we start discussing our little stepbrother across town in Queens, be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening to this adolescent sibling rivalry banter back and forth today, give us a 5-star rating and review on our audio platforms. And don't forget to hit up our link tree, which has our merch store, sponsor shopping links, along with our newest affiliate, Tops. So if you're into sports cards of any kind, get over there, get your stuff through us. You got our social media platforms over there. And like I said, you got all our audio platforms over there. So drop us a 5-star rating and review on that. link.tr.ee/baseball banter broadcast. That's where you find it. So let's go.
And to help us discuss that little brother, it is our good buddy, Dan.
Very little brother.
What's going on, guys? Buddies, pals. We stole your best player. That's
Juan
great.
who?
That's great.
Oh, you mean Clay Holmes? Yeah, you stole our best player, Clay Holmes. Yeah, you know, if you need someone to stop the bleeding, bring in him. He'll do great. He'll give up 14 runs in one inning.
Hey,
be a great time.
You never know. Maybe he'll surprise everybody. Maybe
or give you a heart attack. That's what we called him, cardiac Clay.
Yeah, he's still an all-star a couple times, so I'll take it. What's going on, guys?
Not much.
What is going on? So as you can tell, this is going to be a fun episode between some very familiar foes. Now, as we begin,
he's already got the solo cup. We're already stressing him out. He's already got the red cup. Like,
don't worry.
We're 3 minutes into this. He's already got the red solo cup.
It's aqua, so we're good. It's
sure.
No, we're saving that for opening day. Don't worry.
Water made from potatoes, huh?
Stewie Griffin meme hasn't come out yet. So let's go.
Yes.
This will be a fun one for sure. So now, as we begin this series, we like to take a look and a little bit of a retrospective. Give us your gut reaction on the 2024 campaign.
Well, the 2024 campaign was a crazy one. Obviously, it didn't start like the way we all planned it. And we're just like, oh, boy, Mendy and the boys aren't really ready to go. 0-5, very sluggish. Lindor had his normal early season slumps. And then Jose Iglesias came up from the minors. Got the team a little loosened and got everything going. And then the fan fiction of a purple McDonald's character, Hawk Tua, a rally pimp, and how can I forget Mr. Seymour? So this last year was one big Twitter meme for the Mets fan-wise, but as the season progressed, the team inside the clubhouse became more and more close, and you saw that with Lindor having a MVP caliber season, other than a guy named Ohtani.
You mean Judge?
Well, in the NL, talking about the NL. So,
National League doesn't matter.
yes, it is what it is. congratulations for being MVP judge. Let's see who else. And then the pitching became world class with Sean Manaea, who has been a journeyman the last couple of years that never had his A game stuff. Then the pitching lab helped him out and became an ace that we all hope he can be in year 2 with the Mets. And then, of course, we can't forget Sevy. Yeah, hot start with that. So, yeah. And then we made the run to the NLCS, and unfortunately, the better team won in 6. We gave 2 hard-fought wins. Unfortunately, they were the better team, and the magic carpet ride of that playoff run ended abruptly. So, it's a good test to see what we can do in the future for sure. So, it was a bittersweet moment losing to the Dodgers, but they're obviously the best team in the league. So let's see what happens in 2025.
Now, as we look ahead to 2025, the Mets were one of the most active teams, arguably the most active team this offseason. Obviously, the big name is Juan Soto coming in, and amongst that, bringing back Sean Manaea, bringing in Frankie Montas, bringing back
both hurt, by the way, so that's fun.
Yeah. Clay Holmes that you mentioned already. There was a ton of guys brought in. Of those moves, outside of the obvious one in Soto, which move did you like the most, and which one are you kind of the most curious about?
I'm most pumped for AJ Minter because that shores up the bullpen, gives another arm for Diaz if he needs a night off or we need him in a higher leverage situation. We can throw him to save the game, or if Diaz unfortunately blows the save and we come back and take the lead, we have him to close the game out. So we have that flexibility. Especially with Clay Holmes seems to be sticking with the starters at the moment. So the bullpen is shored up a little bit. I think they were a little too cute with the starting pitching. Frankie Montas and Clay Holmes. And then unfortunately now that Manaea is hurt for a little bit, it's going to be interesting. It seems like they just threw Clay against the wall and see whatever hits. And let's see if they could nail it 2 years in a row. So that's how I feel coming into the offseason. And I think re-signing Pete is going to be big because he finally has like a guy named Soto and hopefully a year number 2 with Vientos to have players in front of him that he could mash. So we'll see what happens with that as well. So yeah, big offseason. So we're excited.
I still don't get the Clay Holmes thing.
Neither do I. They saw Seth Lugo leave for Kansas City, and they legit held him back for the last whatever amount of years, and then they saw him be a Cy Young candidate. I guess Mendoza and the other former Yankees farmhands were like, well, he could be a very good starter. Let's give this a shot. So
the problem is he doesn't know where his pitches are going. That sinker, you don't know if it's going to hit someone in the head or if it's going to drop out of the zone like it's supposed to do.
I also think with him is he's able to pitch out of it other than the high leverage bottom of the ninth, and you're like, oh crap, we only have to get 3 outs with him, opposed to okay, I could mentally figure out where I need to put these pitches and I have time to figure it out, opposed to the all right, yeah. I'm a reliever. So
right.
I'm with you with that, with the high leverage. But, hey, he wasn't an all-star the last 2 years. So, granted, he fell flat last year. Thank God the Yankees got picked up by Weaver and the other guys in the pen. But I think once he adjusted out of the closer role, I think he was fine.
Yeah, I mean, he was forced into it because of Aroldis Chapman and all of his shenanigans the year prior.
Right.
And I think where he really struggled with being a closer is his command and control. So he was constantly walking dudes. He was constantly getting himself into trouble, driving up his pitch count, and he was just getting gassed. And that's where I worry about converting this dude to a starter where you're going to have to go out there and throw 80, 90, 100 pitches a game. And can he physically do it? I mean, I think the most he threw And one inning was that one game against the Guardians where I just wanted to crap my pants because he was already up to 50 pitches before he got 2 outs.
I think with him, they're gonna slowly work him into it. He's the 5th starter, probably now the 4th starter because of all the injuries.
Shit, he might be your ace the way you guys are going this spring training.
Yeah, not great. Remind me why spring training takes 2 months.
It's actually they've shortened it over the last couple of years. So the guys reported February 11th, right?
Right.
They gave them 2 weeks to work out as a squad. Then the game started on the 21st of February, I believe. So then the regular season starts March 27th. So really, it's not as long as it used to be.
Yeah, that's the crazier thing because nowadays everybody should be in shape. It's like
you would think with the guy with the Puerto Rican league, the Dominican winter leagues, the Venezuelan winter leagues, the AZL. There's no excuse. I mean, these guys have the opportunity to play baseball year round if they really wanted to.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. And it's too damn long. And you guys have it too with the injury bug. It's just like, all right, give us 3 weeks, so we'll be done. We're still gonna unfortunately have injuries because that's just how everything works out, unfortunately. But it's just like, all right, it's like the dog days of spring training. Give me another week or two. I'm ready to go. It's just, we got spring training again. Okay, cool.
These dudes come in and they start just throwing 105 off the bat, and they keep blowing their arms, their shoulders. They keep cutting themselves, shaving, walking past a black cat, breaking a mirror, whatever the hell they're doing.
Yeah.
And like, you know, we're going through it right now where LeMahieu and his foot and his hamstring, Giancarlo Stanton might have to have his arms cut off and be given robotic arms for Christ's sake.
Both arms is.
And then you got Luis Heel blowing his shoulder out. Clark Schmidt has a step back. Like, it's like, can we get out of here in one piece?
Yeah.
Please, for the love of God.
Yeah. Thankfully, for the most part, the Mets, other than the pitching, has been relatively healthy. So, knocking on wood. Now everybody's gonna die tomorrow, but yeah. So, a very positive off season. Let's hold it together for a couple more weeks, and then the roller coaster of being a Met fan with the ups and downs.
So 2 points on some of the stuff that was just said.
Yep.
First, I think that Clay Holmes as a starter is going to be a much more reliable pitcher than what we saw with him as a closer. Correct. I don't think that with the stuff that he possesses, a closer role is the best role for him. Mm-hmm. I think that when you have someone behind him to kind of save him from himself, that's when he's at his best. You know, in the 24 playoffs for the Yankees, you saw when he had more of that 7th, 8th inning role with Luke Weaver as the closer, he had more confidence pitching the ball.
Yes, he definitely did.
Because he knew, all right, if I get into trouble, it's not on me. Somebody else can come clean up this mess that I just made. And I think that going out there as a starter, he can go out there with a little less pressure and just go out there and pitch. And realistically, when that sinker does what it's supposed to do, it drops out of the zone, as Dave said. But all he has to do as a starter is just pitch it right down the middle and let the natural movement do what it does. Where when you're a closer, you're trying to get swings and misses, and he's not a swing and miss type pitcher.
He's a contact pitcher.
Exactly. And I think that what he does best will be amplified in the position of a starter more so than what it was as a closer. And the second part that I would say is in terms of the length of spring training, we know as baseball fans, it's all about the pitchers and getting them stretched out. And the interesting part for me is that what we've seen, what the numbers and the data has shown over the last several years in several different research things that have Major League Baseball has put out, is that the predominant number of injuries throughout the course of the season come at this time, come during spring training. And it's like Dave said, guys are getting into camp and trying to ramp it up to throw 105 when realistically their bodies are not conditioned for that.
Go on, finish. I'm sorry. I'll jump in after that.
Yeah. And that most of these guys throughout the course of the season are not going to be hitting that number anyway.
No.
But they're trying to gas it up. They're trying to ramp it up and try to show something off. and that's why we see these injuries play out.
And another thing, it takes them another month in regular season play that you're like, all right, 60 pitches and they're done. And you're like, all right, cool. Like the first, as important the wins are in April and May, yes. But are you really cooking yet? No. So it's like these are just as important as October and September, but it's like preseason with it meaning more. So it's just like, all right, we just got to find the groove, just stay afloat type of thing. And then if you start hot, you start hot. If you don't, like the Mets last year, there's plenty of time left, and you just got to figure out a way to stay afloat. That's the best way I approach the early start of the year, like right around Memorial Day. It's just like, all right, now here we go, boys. Wake up.
Here's the deal with spring training and professional preseason sports in general.
Right.
It's a tourist attraction. Can we all agree on that?
Well, in baseball, 100%, yeah.
These fans want to go on vacation. They want to see their dudes play all 9 innings. And what they need to get through their damn head is spring training, at least at the Major League in terms of Major League Baseball. This is where these teams evaluate their minor league talent to see if they have progressed facing the big dogs. That's why they're called minor league invites to spring training. They want to see if they've made any progress.
Like, half the Mets minor leaguers got called back down 2 days ago. So it's like, all right.
And this is where you evaluate the top prospects too. Like Spencer Jones and George Lombard Jr. are absolutely just destroying whoever the hell it is they face. And we'll get to that at a later episode. But people just need to get through their heads. They're like, this is where they evaluate their minor league talent. Like, Anthony Volpe is not going to go out there and play all 9 innings. Juan Soto is not going to be out there playing all 9 innings. Max Fried and Clay Holmes aren't throwing complete game shutouts. Like, just chill.
Yeah.
Chill, go enjoy the experience, go get your autographs, go take your pictures with your favorite players and enjoy it as the family atmosphere for which it is intended to be.
Facts.
Minus the cost.
That's the biggest part of it, especially with the Mets and Yankees.
Yeah, you have to mortgage your house to go to a spring training Yankees game now.
It's nuts. Absolutely insane. But now, as you know, one of the things that you did mention, Dan, facing the Mets this year already early in camp is the injury bug.
Mm-hmm.
Frankie Montas is out, Sean Manaea. You have a couple of very pivotal and key players in that rotation that are now out. Of the injuries that the Mets have faced, and kind of, are there any other players that you're questioning and curious about to see how they translate throughout the course of the season?
Well, I think the co-ace in Kodai Senga, unfortunately, he was hurt all year last year. They brought him back for one start, and I forget the exact month, but it was in the middle of the summer. So it was like, okay, cool, we might get our ace back. 1 inning or within the first couple innings of that start, he didn't feel it. And then he came back for the NLDS, and it was basically
pitched well too.
Yeah, he had rough starts in his starts the game, and then once he got his footing, he was okay. But he was why am I drawing a big ass blank right now? He was a bullpen game. They had guys ready to go to piggyback him.
He went 5 innings to my recollection.
Yeah, one of the games, but I think his first game against the Phillies, he gave up a home run, I think his first at bat, and then he settled down for a bit. Maybe you might be right with the innings, but
he struggled getting there, but he got the 5.
It was a struggle getting there, but you got to give him credit for bouncing back and wanting to pitch in the playoffs. But hopefully he finds that fork pitch, ghost fork, and he becomes the ace that he was 2 seasons ago. And then when Manaea comes back, hopefully it's that injury that nags you the whole entire season. So very, very nervous about that. And then Brandon Nimmo's been hurt all of last year with that one freak incident, which we'll never find out exactly what really happened. With his knees, his elbows, and he was just messed up towards the end of the year, and hopefully he heals up as well. So for the most part, it's the pitching really, and can Brandon Nimmo bounce back to being more of a average hitter, because he hit 25 home runs last year, and his average has dipped significantly since the last few years since he
No.
got homer happy.
Yeah, I think we've seen that a lot with guys that you wouldn't consider prototypical home run hitters.
Right.
I think back to the Yankees with Gleyber Torres. One year he had 38 home runs, and he had been chasing that ever since. And it wasn't until he got away from that.
The juiced baseballs were the cause of
But
that.
well, yes, no doubt.
Yeah, no, I mean, Brandon Nimmo hitting 25 home runs and not being in the leadoff spot, it's still weird to me. But obviously, when Lindor is becoming an MVP candidate, you got to keep him in the one hole, and then Nimmo is going to be like behind Pete or hopefully Alvarez. We'll see what happens with that. But yeah, it's so weird because he was such a good guy to get on base, but unfortunately would never steal. And that was the biggest gripe with Brandon Nimmo in the leadoff spot would be, Brandon, you got the speed. Come on, use it a little bit. So for whatever reason, didn't trust that, especially with the bigger bases and everything else. He still wouldn't really do it. So that would be my biggest thing with Brandon, is be a little bit more of a small ball hitter, which is how he got his money. So it's interesting.
Quite honestly, if I'm the Mets, I'm going Lindor, Nimmo, Alonso, and Soto.
Yeah, that's not bad. I think with how Vientos played in the playoffs, at least start the season, I would give him a shot at the 3-hole and have Nimmo bat.
And I think Juan prefers to hit in that 2-hole.
Yeah.
So I think that, especially having Lindor at the top, being a switch hitter, if you're looking for that kind of balance of lefty righty.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. It would be back-to-back lefties.
Right. So
depending on who's pitching.
Yeah. But I think that,
you're batting right-handed against a left-handed batter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. But the potential of 3 lefties in a row with the righty would be fine.
Yeah, I also think that, when you look at some of, with Mendoza coming over from the Yankees, a lot of that is looking for that balance. For the Phillies, Rob Thompson loves that lefty-righty balance. Something that was, kind of filtered in. And you think back to when the Yankees were, in the World Series with Joe Girardi, there was lefty-righty, with Tex as the switch hitter.
But that was a perfect lineup, though. That
lineup was sick.
Because of all the
good pitching to
that lineup was close to perfect.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that, every manager is trying to chase that perfect balance and trying to find that. So I think that it is an interesting thing to see how a guy like Nimmo now dropping down in the order and not being that prototypical guy in those spots, how he can kind of bring his skill set lower in the lineup, but still provide that same level of talent and versatility.
Right. Yeah, no, I love Nimmo. So it's not me bashing him. It's just weird. It's just how baseball is today. And it's just he was one of the few last get on base guys and just smack the ball around the outfield, get some doubles, get some triples, just find a way to get on base. Yeah, it's a little weird how he celebrates a walk, but hey, it is what it is. But yeah, I miss small ball sometimes, and I miss old school baseball when it comes to that sometimes. And it's just dude. And Jeff McNeil's the same way. We'll get into him later on, but him losing 100 points after being the batting champ and not being anywhere near it the last 2 seasons has been insane as well, and has to be looked up. I know John Boy Jolly has is the batting champion cursed, and he actually did good analyst of the last bunch of batting champions, and just what happened to all these guys? Tim Anderson's not even in the league anymore. Put that in your head. he was a first-round draft pick in fantasy baseball for like a couple of years, and you're like, all right, he can do it all, and he's gonna bat 310, 320, 330. Crazy.
I don't think that's the only reason why Tim Anderson isn't in Major League
All right,
Baseball
well, yeah,
anymore.
we're not getting into all that.
The guy was kind of a cancer on the team, so there's plenty of reasons why he's not in the league anymore.
Right, but
2 points on that real quick. He's right now on a minor league deal with the Angels, and it looks like he's probably going to be their starting second baseman, and possibly their starting shortstop with Zach Neto out to start the year. And 2, I agree with Dan's point about the curse with the batting title champ, because look at exactly what happened to DJ LeMahieu after that.
Yeah, he broke his foot
won
and
the
he
batting
can't walk anymore.
He's also our age, Dave.
Listen, I can still get a 92.3 on my annual PT test, okay?
He's more like me than you then. All right, fine. Fair enough. But
I can still run and not break my foot.
But that's, just kind of going back to that weirdness with the batting champions over the last several years. It just kind of leads to that same idea that, it is something that has to be questioned, right? And kind of looked at, and what's going on in the league where all these guys who have been the batting champion, who were seen as such consistent players in that, batting average chase with Tim Anderson, Jeff McNeil, DJ LeMahieu, and now they're all have fallen off for one reason or another. And obviously,
Arias, he's the only one.
He's probably next.
Yeah.
But that's all he does. That's why. So,
you know what they probably do?
So,
right. So here's my conspiracy theory on this. So they send weighted baseballs to the games where the reigning batting champion is playing, and they're playing with weighted baseballs. I mean, you got to admit, there's something weird going on with the baseball, man. I have never seen the Yankees bang into so many freaking double plays in my life. Season after season after season after season.
Oh, we're playing.
You cannot tell me that there is something weird going on with what I mean. Major League Baseball is allowed to own Rawlings. Does anyone else see a conflict of interest here?
And the fall off where DJ absolutely just sucks, because it's just how crazy how you lose it. It's like he's hitting clutch home runs, basically being your team MVP. The next minute, like, he's not playable.
Well, he was also playing every day because Glaber was at shortstop.
Yeah,
that year.
Then he had to play. Then he had to play first for a good chunk of that year.
Yeah, because Luke Voigt couldn't keep his together. Yep. And then play third.
No, he was the Yankees those few years.
Yeah.
Other than Judge, of course. But.
I'm in Judge. That was it. But yeah, so it definitely is going to be interesting to see kind of how the Mets shake things out with a guy like Nimmo, with a guy like McNeil, and see how those things kind of play out and how they decide to kind of balance that lineup or not. It may be that they do start to stack some of that more power types in the middle of the order with Alonso and Vientos and see how, and Alvarez, and see how that shakes out, and then maybe flip it on the other side and try to get contact at the bottom of the order. Yeah. Now, as you kind of go for it.
No, I was letting you finish. I was just saying, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how they shake up the lineup to them this year.
So now, as we kind of get into the next section and looking at the team itself, who do you believe is the X factor for the Mets' success, and what does that look like?
All right, I think the obvious. Well, I'm not going to give you the obvious two answers, but I think this year with Pete being able to not be the face of the franchise, it's another 1-year contract. But hey, you're like the third, fourth guy on this team, and there's going to be guys on base that you have never seen, like his whole tenure with the Mets. Yeah, McNeil and Nimmo, like we mentioned before, but they're not Juan Soto. And they're obviously not Francisco Lindor caliber. And then hopefully with Vientos being there, there's going to be a lot of action on the base, and he's going to be able to get his RBI numbers back up and not just be a power guy that hits the 45 home runs and then he barely gets over to 100 and he's batting as long as Pete's batting 245 and above, that's perfectly fine. And then my dark horse would be Alvarez. Alvarez had a solid first full season. He had 25 home runs. Last year he got hit hard. He got injured. He was on the IL for a long time. That really stunted his growth with the at the bats. He's a free swinger, so I would love to see him cut that down a little bit more, and so he would be able to get on base more other than a home run or a strikeout with him, because the talent is there. Other than like Will Smith, and Realmuto, the catching in the NL it's not up to snub with other positions. So he could easily become an all-star this year if he's healthy and gets the hits that we're expecting him to get. And he's batting towards the bottom of the lineup, so there's going to be plenty of times that he's going to have guys on base, and he's just going to have to find a way to drive those guys back in. So the potential's there. He's still very young, and I'm very excited to see him hopefully stay healthy and have another full year under his belt in year 3. So
Yeah, I think Alvarez is a really interesting one. And I also think that one of the more underrated aspects of Juan Soto and his ability is his understanding of the hit tool and being
right.
able to kind of impart that. Right? So throughout the course of the history of this channel, I've said it and I will continue to say it. Juan Soto is this generation's Ted Williams, and his knowledge of the strike zone and understanding of what pitchers are going to try to do to him and how they're going to try to attack him and how he's going to answer those attacks and almost lull pitchers into what he's looking for at the plate. It is second to none. You know, the other guy that it kind of reminded me of is Manny Ramirez. And Manny was a guy that they said would take crazy swings early on, knowing that the pitcher was going to give him that again, and he was going to be sitting on it, waiting for it. And I find that Soto is very similar.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if he can impart some of that wisdom to a guy like Francisco Alvarez, I think his career could absolutely blossom.
Yeah, and obviously we all watched Soto for the last whatever amount of years he's been up, since 19, and then watching his 2 home runs with the Mets in spring training. The second home run, I know it's spring training, so it's in the minor league park, so the sound's a little bit different, but holy crap, man. Just hearing the crack of his bat is just something else. You know he's different. Like, you just could tell from the crack of his bat. It's just like, yeah, like we got Juan Soto. So, yeah, like you could tell he's different, and obviously we know, but he's making all that money. So, but it's just from the second home run, it sounded like literally a gunshot, and it was just like, holy crap, he's on the Mets. So, but yeah.
One of the things that I think is going to be interesting is, obviously we know this year they're not going to employ the ABS system in Major League Baseball, right? They're trying it out in spring training, but we're not going to see it in the 2025 campaign, right? But I think the guy that would absolutely love to see that employed would be Juan Soto.
Oh,
I think
Aaron Judge too.
Judge, forget it.
Well, yeah, but Judge. Yeah, so I think the aspect for Judge that would be best fitted with the ABS system is the fact that it changes the zone for each batter and that he won't get those low strikes called. But I'm thinking with Soto, those borderline calls that are constantly, coming up, and we're seeing it on the broadcast as fans, we're watching it, and we see like that looks like a ball. And Soto looks back at the umpire like, bro, that's not a strike. Like, I know the strike zone. And it reminds me of the story where there was a young pitcher who was pitching against Wade Boggs. And when Boggs would take a pitch and the umpire would call it a ball, and the catcher that was there was like, come on, man, I need that pitch for my pitcher. He's a young guy. He's just trying to figure out his delivery. He's trying to figure it all out. And the umpire says to the catcher, he's like, Wade Boggs will tell you when that's a strike. And that's, to me, another one of the aspects of Juan Soto. This man understands the strike zone like nobody that we see in the game today. So
Right.
I think that when MLB finally does employ the ABS system in the majors, he's going to be the happiest guy in the entire league.
Yeah.
Did they say why they're not doing it?
I think it was just a tryout for springing it regardless, and then
Yeah.
it's up for discussion for vote next year.
It's gonna go into the
Yeah.
CBA. That's why.
Right. So that's really what it is.
Yeah, well, lockout's coming, so.
Don't
For sure.
say that. I will.
Dude,
slap
it's
you.
so obvious because teams like us and like the Phillies and Dodgers.
I can't go through another lockout, bro. I will
It's gonna
lose
happen,
my
bro.
damn mind.
I mean, look,
With that
we're-
attitude,
we're
yeah,
getting-
sure.
We're getting punished for actually investing in our teams. And then you have teams in Pittsburgh and all these other teams that don't spend a cent.
You know what?
I
That
would
is
like-
their problem. First of
My
all,
point.
every owner in Major League Baseball is a billionaire or $100 million short, and there needs to be a salary floor imposed on these bottom feeders. That all right? So check it out, right? So the top teams in Major League Baseball, you got the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Mets, the Braves,
Boston.
Phillies, Boston, right? Those 6 teams are constantly going up against the competitive balance tax. And these sons of bitches are taking
Right.
this money and just pocketing it and not spending a fucking dime of it.
There was a tweet
That ain't
out
right.
today.
That should not be allowed. If
There-
you're
let
taking
me get a
money,
tweet. I gotta find the tweet. My in my group chat was.
if you are
today.
taking money from the top 6 teams in baseball, you should be required to spend it and have to show what you're spending it on, not just shoving it under a mattress somewhere.
So the Mets luxury tax payment is $97 million for 2024. That's more than the Rays, Pirates, A's each has spent on their entire payroll last season.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, there's got to be a middle. There has to be some sort of threshold.
And then the constant argument is like, well, then you're imposing a salary cap. I'm like, you already fucking got it. Like, what do you mean you're imposing it? You already have it. You got 4 different tiers that you can go up against, and then you got to pay.
They have to meet at some point of like, all right, you got to spend at least something. Like that's what the NFL has.
100 million. 100 million should be the bare minimum you have to spend on player personnel.
So here's the problem, right, with the salary.
And the A's signed Severino just to like look like
67 million. Well, they don't have a stadium to pay for.
A lawsuit from the Players Association. So the argument obviously about a salary floor is the salary cap, right? And that's where part of the whole CBA lockout that's impending is going to be about, because those teams at the top and owners like Cohen, teams like the Dodgers, like the Yankees, you know, all the teams that you mentioned that are spending on their ball club are getting tired of giving money away for teams that are not
for them
looking
to do nothing.
And that's why
Right.
Hal Steinbrenner is acting the way he's acting with not wanting to spend money. He's like, fuck them. I'm not giving my money to them. Why?
Right.
But the problem is that then the owners want to put in a cap so that people can't spend more. And that's where the
think
Players
they should do
Association
like what the NBA does with the soft cap, because let's face it, the NBA has a cap, but it's all right. We could wiggle room it and like finagle everything, and the NFL's like that too. But I think the NBA cap would be something they should employ some sort of a, because the competitive imbalance is absolutely insane. And the middle market teams, the middle market teams are actually good, and then they plan well, and they unfortunately, it's just they fall short. But they're at least there, and they make competitive moves. They're smart. Like with the Rays are the best example of it. If their manager wasn't a bonehead, they would have won the World Series a couple years ago. Like there's those teams, and then there's teams that do absolutely nothing, like the Pirates. They got the best pitcher in the planet right now in Skeens.
And they're just
And
wasting
they're only watchable one night a week. So like there's something has to be better with baseball, and unfortunately it's gonna cause a lockout, and then hopefully around March, spring training, we're like, all right, we got to be back, and they'll sign something.
Well, and here's the other thing too. They expanded the playoffs for a reason, right? You mean to tell me that these small market teams that get into this wild card playoff aren't benefiting financially off their team playing 1 extra game or 2 extra games or even 3 extra games at the end of the year? Come on. It's trash.
Yeah, I think there's a lot, obviously to all sides of the discussion of it, and
For
I
sure.
think that
For sure.
it's definitely something that Major League Baseball has to do something about. The Players Association has to do something about because we are barreling towards a lockout, and it for baseball fans like us, it's very sad to, come to that realization that this is what's coming, but nevertheless, it is something that we have to kind of look at and see we're kind of part of the problem, right? With
Oh,
with
for
both of
sure.
our teams going out there and spending, it's looked at on one
And I
side
blame the
where
Red
we're the
Sox
issue
too.
for
I blame
for
the Red
sure. Yeah,
Sox
it's
too
not just us.
because
I mean,
they got scared of the tax and literally got rid of their best players for literally no one.
yeah,
The
Yeah.
Mookie
and,
Betts
and
trade has to
Colton
be
Wong and Alex Verdugo and some other guy that never even made it.
Jeter Downs, I think was.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah.
yeah. So I think Dan, to your point about like the NBA and their soft cap, I think we have that. I think baseball tried to do that
Yeah.
with the three
Yeah.
tiers of the luxury tax threshold. But I think the problem is that when smart clubs, right,
Right.
like the Dodgers, they see a bit of a
And
wiggle
another
room.
thing,
They see a
why is it the
loophole.
Cohen tax when the Dodgers are 100 times crazier than what we've done?
Because they found a loophole and they're deferring money.
I agree.
Nobody
I'm
else
just
is
saying,
doing it.
if it was the Mets doing all this, oh my God, Steve Cohen's the worst. How can he do such a thing? But the Dodgers are in LA, like,
hold on. Your precious owner did come into the league with a lot of questionable baggage attached to him when he tried to buy that team, when he was buying that team.
For sure.
Okay. He was on the verge of going to jail for financial crimes, if I remember correctly. There was some pretty crazy going on. So he's even lucky to even own the team. That's why everyone would have been losing their mind had he done it because of all the stuff from his past. The ownership group with the Dodgers, they're hedge fund people. Like they're from freaking Wall Street. And they're just
and the Dodgers have Guggenheim money, so it's like
yes.
it's crazy. It's like a
Yeah,
conglomerate.
now
It's like they're doing business with the National Bank of Switzerland.
Now, as we kind of pull it back towards the Mets of 2025, we look at the team, and we always like to get a bold prediction. So, Dan, give me your bold prediction for the Mets this year.
We're the champions.
No, I'm not that guy. What's it called? I'm gonna say Alvarez is an all-star. Soto is gonna be NL MVP because some reason Ohtani has a little sluggish time because he's pitching and batting. But obviously Ohtani's doing both. How about Ohtani getting his gambling under the rug? By the way, that seems fishy. But
well, you can't have your poster child doing stuff, illegal stuff. Come on now.
Anyway, no, I think Soto's gonna have a run at Ohtani at the MVP crown this year. Not really a big thing, but I'm gonna go Alvarez has an all-star season.
Yeah, that's a solid push for a prediction. I think that Alvarez can be one of those guys that can become a perennial all-star, especially at the catching position. We know that over the last several years, it's kind of become a bit of a weaker position in terms of.
It reminds me of Gary Sanchez is the one thing I'm scared about.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, at least Alvarez can bat above 180.
For now.
The one thing I missed about Sanchez
has the
is
same
his
exact
arm.
swing, and I'm like,
if Gary could have just gotten his offense under control with that sniper of a cannon from behind the plate, man, he would have been a hell of a catcher.
If he wasn't lazy behind the plate, and then that got everybody pissed, and then him batting 185 was just like, all right, Gary, when you're batting 250 with 45 home runs, we put up with it, but you're not doing anything right now, Gary.
Well, that's what happens when you bring in 9 different catching instructors and screw your brain up. Just let the kid just do what he does.
Because when he got first called up, Dan, that was special.
Yeah, yes, for real. He almost made the All-Star team.
He almost won Rookie of the Year coming up
Yeah, that too.
August.
Yeah, that was something.
24 home runs in that short period of time. It was insane.
That's stupid. Yeah,
It was
I remember
crazy.
watching that nightly.
For sure. Now, as you know, the bold predictions go, and this might sound like a Yankee fan who's mad that Soto left, but I think that my bold prediction is that I think the 2024 season for the Mets was a fluke. I think that they are going to get back towards being middle of the road in that division, middle of the road in the National League. I think that they're going to be one of the 7 best teams in the NL, and I think that they can make a wild card spot, but I don't think they're nearly going to have the push and the run that they did. I think that they're going to be much closer to the last seed of the wild card or not making it at all than they will towards, being second or first in the division where some people are projecting them to be.
I think they do win the East. I think Max Fried leaving Atlanta is a big blow to that rotation,
It's huge,
and
but
they're gonna
also
rely on Chris Sale.
I mean, he had a very good year last year.
I mean, he did, but he's also getting older too, man. And there's a lot of innings on that arm.
I think with the Braves is they're gonna get Acuna back. They're gonna get Riley back. They were
For how long until they get injured again?
Last
They
year
get
was
injured
that,
again.
I think
Forget
last year was that year though with the Braves, and the Mets not lucked out, but the Mets were able to take advantage of it, and they were able to beat them in game 162. So I think with the 3-headed monster in the NL East, it's basically who could ever stay the healthiest and be able to jockey their positioning while they're in that big slump. Like the Braves in 22, that was the most insane thing ever. The Mets were literally winning almost every single night, and it was just the Braves wouldn't lose a game as well, and the Mets were just like, what do we got to do? It's like, and then unfortunately the Braves had the Braves moments, and the Mets had their typical Mets fashion choke job, and they played 100. They tied at the final end of the season, and then they got embarrassed by the Padres. So it was just like they literally blinked for like a game, and it was just like, oh god, like we're not gonna win the division, and it was absolutely insane. So you can never count out the Braves, especially when healthy. The Phillies, I think they're always gonna be the Phillies, but maybe might take a step back or two. But I do see where you're coming from with the Mets being quote unquote fluky, especially with the pitching staff. There isn't that one guy that's like, all right, we're on a 3-game losing streak. We need a win tonight to just salvage the week. We don't have that guy at the moment. Hopefully it's Sango. Hopefully Manaea when he comes back, but we do not have that guy at that moment. And that is the scariest part going into the season. And it isn't thank God for the extra wild card now that it's not end all be all to win the division. So
yeah. And I think that's part of the reason why I'm so skeptical of what the Mets are going to be able to do. I think that even though, you look at the loss of Max Fried as a big deal for the Braves rotation, they're getting back Spencer Strider by the end of April. You have Chris Sale.
And he's another one. Yeah, Strider. Right. That was huge too.
Right. And then you also have the fact that, Reynaldo Lopez took a big step last year as a first-time starter coming out of the bullpen from the White Sox. Chris Sale had a good year. And then you look at the fact that that team was decimated by injuries, and you have to expect a regression to the mean in terms of health for that team because everybody was out. And, out for significant periods of time outside of Matt Olson was the only guy that wasn't hurt.
Yeah, he was the only guy, and Albies was hurt a little bit too. So
twice. Albies was out for 2 different stints. They lost Acuna for essentially the entire season. So you have to expect a regression to the mean in terms of health for most of those guys, if not all of those guys. You look at the Phillies, and while, yes, their lineup is getting older, that might be the best starting 5 in baseball.
Yeah.
You look at the fact that they're likely going to have a guy in Jesus Luzardo as their number 5 starter, a guy who was arguably one of the 2 aces of the Marlins. And sure, it's the Marlins, but nevertheless, that's their number 5 starter. So there's a lot of
if he's healthy.
Sure.
And that's the thing with the Phillies is like we joke, their park is a bandbox. So having those quality pitchers there neutralizes a lot of things. So, and then it starts off with Nola and Wheeler.
Danny, let me ask you this: with the Mets rotation as non-existent as it is, was it really a good idea to trade Verlander and Scherzer last year?
Well, it's 2 years ago, and
2 years ago, it felt like it was last year for some reason.
No, it was 2 years ago, and I think we're at that point of the season. We got the best type of prospects possible for them, so I don't hate it. It felt that way, Dave, because we were still paying them last season. That actually our payroll is actually lower this year than last year. Can you believe that?
I also think that when you look at the season that both guys ended up having, especially last year, it was a smart move. It was a smart move to unload them, even if you did have to pony up some money. That's the one luxury and asset that you have with an owner like Steve Cohen, that he can just throw money at a problem. It's what George Steinbrenner used to do back, in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, was throw money at problems. And this time, it's something that Cohen can actually do that gives him an advantage over everyone else that nobody has the ability to do, is to pay problems to go away. And I think that with the prospects that the Mets got for both of those guys, it just gave them the ability to kind of reset that. And I think that when you see the way they had their run last year, it definitely worked out for the best.
Yeah, and I like David Stearns too, and he has that that mid-market level of having to be strapped of like, okay, I have some sort of a budget here to work with, but it does help that I have Steve Cohen here to be like, all right, this ain't getting it done, get it done, all right, type of thing. Yeah. So
I also like Stearns because I think that he's a guy that comes, like you said, with that mid-market mindset and the knowledge of how to be creative.
Right. And he's been doing that. Has he been cute doing it? Yeah, 100%. You're blind if you're not.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, converting Clay Holmes from a reliever to a starter, it's a cute move. But you also can see how sometimes that creativity can really work and be a big time benefit for a team.
And another guy,
you can throw money at it after.
And another guy that had a huge year last year, and he's in the same boat with Vientos and Alvarez, is David Peterson. He's a lefty. He's power pitcher. He could be that next guy to be the 2-3 starter, where he's been our fifth guy for the last couple of years, and he hasn't been able to put it together. Can he have that another solid year where everybody's like, oh crap, Peterson's actually a good pitcher? Like at the start of last season, it's like, all right, whatever. And then like September came around, it was like, oh, good, Peterson's pitching today. I trust him. He was in the circle of trust towards the end of the last year. And being a baseball fan, you know how important being in the circle of trust is. So
absolutely.
Can he have another year like that? Would be another huge question. And he's a lefty too. So
yeah, so that kind of leads me perfectly into my next question. And is the kind of question of the rotation the biggest question facing the team this year?
Yeah, without a doubt. Because you're going to have Lindor and Soto and then Alonso and the other casts of offense. They're going to still find a way. There's going to be a lot of 6-5, 5-4 games nightly. Will the Mets be able to find a way to wiggle it out every night? That would be the real determining of how good this team can be. Because they were such a scrappy team last year. You could have never counted them out every single night, and they found a way to do that. Like how it is in football, like 1-score games are so fluky. So you're onto something. I'm hoping you're wrong, but could the shoe drop a little bit more this season? Absolutely. So they're going to have to find a way to be creative in pitching to be like, all right, he doesn't have his stuff. All right, we're going to have to go to the pen early. Who's going to be the guy to step up tonight? And I got a sad feeling that that's going to happen a lot more than it's not going to happen this year. So hopefully we're both wrong.
So then that kind of leads me into the next question. What is the biggest frustration for the fan base?
It's going to be the starting pitching because we're so used to be built on starting pitching and aces and knowing we're going to have Jacob deGrom, we're going to have Noah Syndergaard or Matt Harvey when healthy, and Wheeler before that was the year before Cohen took over. That sucks. It's we've had those guys. We had like Bartolo Colons, and then we've had Seaver and Gooden. We've always been a team about pitching, and I think it's weird. The identity of the Mets is offense, other than like 06. So, and 15 a little bit, but 15 was all about pitching. 15 and 16 were all about pitching.
I mean, 15, you had DeGrom,
DeGrom,
Syndergaard, and Harvey.
Wheeler. Yeah, and then Matt.
And Wheeler, yeah.
No, so like this would be the third time in the Mets franchise history to go back to the playoffs back-to-back years. We're gonna have to figure out a way to get that going and lose that stigma. So
you guys don't have any top starting pitching prospects.
We have
Major League ready.
Not ready. Just maybe trade deadline. Like, oh, we got this guy in the deadline type of move. Tidwell, and we had just Stout, and he's our top prospect. So with him, he had limited time in AAA, and he got a little roughed up in AAA. So they're going to have him cook a little bit. And then Tidwell looked good. He had the immaculate inning the other day. So those two guys could be in the works at some point this year, if not in 26 for sure.
You know, I don't know why I have this gut feeling, but with the dysfunction in San Diego and how they're looking to get rid of people, right. I would not be surprised if you see the Mets make a trade for Mike King.
Yeah, I could see that.
I think Dylan Cease gets moved before Mike King. If all things are equal, I think that Cease.
King's a little.
I mean, they're gonna move both of them because Mike King is a free agent at the end of the year. They're gonna try and maximize the value that they can out of him, especially if he's having a great first half. But Mike King's getting moved at the deadline if the Padres are hanging on by a thread.
I would have loved to see the Padres if their owner unfortunately didn't pass away and actually see this because the way they bought that team was impressive, and unfortunately they didn't get to see it through, and they're in literally the worst division for that to happen.
So now, you mentioned about the fact that the Mets have, historically been built on pitching. Mm-hmm. How would you grade out the pitching staff right now with all these question marks?
If it wasn't for the bullpen, I think a C. It could have been obviously a lot better with the pitching, but obviously 2 out of the 5 guys are already hurt, so yikes. The bullpen is a lot more solid, and now that's how teams win are because of solid bullpens. We have the highest paid closer. Hopefully he'll never have the 22 season, but he was okay last year and he started to find his groove and he was comfortable towards the end of the year. So having Diaz be a solid, little bit lesser version of what he was in 2022, I will take. So I trust Diaz. Minter is a guy. Like, the thing with the relief pitching, it's so year to year. So
valid.
It's so year to year. So hopefully the guys that are supposed to be good continue to be that way. And then we find some diamond in the roughs that we're like, holy crap, cool. Didn't see this coming. Great. And let's not blow out his arm by June.
Now, how would you grade out the offense on the other side of it?
I'm going to go A-. Obviously, when you sign Juan Soto, it's a happy day. There's still question marks in the outfield between Siri and Tyrone Taylor playing center. We don't know the platoon situation between Winker and Marte. That seems like a perfect platoon lefty-righty combo. Do we trade Marte? He was floated around at some point. Maybe we can get a starting pitcher from him. We don't know. That would be me fan fictioning right now. And then it's a lot of young guys that were like, okay, let's see if they could do it for another year. So we could pack a punch with what we got. It's an A- whenever you get Juan Soto. It's an automatic A, but everything else they didn't really do much of. So that's why it's an A.
Yeah. I could see that, and kind of looking at this team, I kind of give it a B plus, and for
That's
those
fair.
very same reasons.
I'm being a homer, so that's fine.
Yeah, yeah. I think obviously Soto is such a big and valuable asset. You have Lindor, who seems to really find his groove and really
Yes.
found his swing when he got moved to the leadoff spot. I think Pete Alonso coming back on the contract that he did, he's coming back with a chip on his shoulder to prove the world wrong. And having a guy like Soto hitting in front of him it is going to be, a blessing for him in such a huge way because of the fact that you're going to have a guy who's consistently on base. And on top of that, being able to have pitchers now have to kind of reevaluate the way that they're pitching him because there's a guy on first is now going to be even more of a potential asset for him. And if those guys behind him can kind of step it up and put a little bit of pressure where it's not such an easy thing to pitch around Alonso, it's going to be an even bigger season for sure. So right now it's a B plus for me, but I think that there's room to grow, especially if we can see some growth and maturation from some of those young guys you mentioned.
So like a Vientos and Alvarez could knock it into an A plus. I agree with you. And one thing I want to say with Lindor, I'm so happy for this guy to finally bust out, and the fan base, for whatever reason, it was like Carlos Beltran all over again, where all this guy does is play literally every single day, and it's just like, just give this guy some slack. He's awesome, and I was definitely not one of the guys that were booing Francisco Lindor, and I'm so happy that the fan base has done a complete 180 on like embracing this guy finally. He's not leaving anytime soon, so about time. And
how with that contract extension hanging around his neck?
Can we get him to the All-Star game? That would be the biggest thing. He hasn't been an All-Star yet with the Mets, and that's the craziest thing. So
it's crazy.
I remember one year David Wright didn't make it. Oh, he wasn't a starter because the All-Star game was in San Fran and Pablo Sandoval beat him out.
That's crazy.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, crazy. No, I Lindor's always been one of my favorite players. Right. In the way that he plays the game, he plays the game the way that we would as fans. Man, he's always got a smile on his face, aka Mr. Smiles. For me, the hate that he got from Mets fans, I was just like, stupid. Have you guys not watched what this guy is capable of?
I wasn't one of them. I actually got my son a Lindor shirt. Like, right.
What do you expect from Mets fans, Jeremy?
Oh, you guys should talk.
I mean, to be fair, it's like us. I get it, but at the same point, it's just, to me, he was one of these guys that if you watched even 10 minutes,
you guys booed Giancarlo Stanton the first game he was at Yankee Stadium after lighting it up in Toronto. I remember that.
Well, okay. First of all, timeout. When Giancarlo Stanton first got here, man, it was a train wreck. We were all looking at each other wondering, who the hell did we trade for, and what is this? This is not what we signed up. His first 2 years in New York were atrocious.
He's the only guy that would hit in the playoffs.
True, so 100%.
But to be fair, Dan's point is perfectly on point, because if you watched Stanton at all during Miami, you would see that he would go through these spells where his swing was atrocious. He was swinging at things that weren't there. I mean, Kodai Senga has the ghost fork. Stanton was literally swinging at ghost pitches, and that would happen in Miami, and nobody paid attention because the highlight reels of Stanton was his 59 home run MVP caliber campaign.
That was an awesome year. He murdered the Mets that year.
It was a nice year. But at the same point, when you see it on a nightly basis, you see those swings. And obviously, when you see the highlight package at the end of the year, it doesn't show those crazy.
We also didn't realize how tight his hamstrings were.
Dude, that
in
guy,
the Miami Heat.
Kept him loose.
Stretch. Get jiggy with it. Do something.
The fact that he has both elbow injuries now is insane and hilarious at the same time. But he's that guy. All right, fine, G. Just see you in September. Put some goat milk on those. Like naturally he's the most clutchest guy on the Yankees roster.
Oh yeah,
Come back in August.
That's it.
Things will be
and
fine.
I think that's, watching what he did last year for us in the World Series. He ingratiated himself to the fan base with that alone. Now, as we kind of bring it towards a close here and we look at the divisional ranking predictions, Pacoda has the Mets sitting in second in the NL East and Fangraphs at third. Pacoda says 91 wins for the Mets and Fangraphs has 87. Where do you see the Mets finishing the divisional battle, and what does that win total look like?
I was looking at FanDuel yesterday. Since the Manaea injury, it went down to 91.5, so they would have to win 92 games. I think it was even money, so I think in that ballpark. I think they're going to be in second place. With the pitching, it's going to be very big question mark, and I think the offense could only do so much, and it's just, can they get it to the pen? I think Philly's just a little bit older. I think it's going to be between us and Philly for second and third, and the Braves bounce back.
I find it very hard to even believe the Mets even win 85 games with that rotation.
But, I mean, to Dan's point earlier, I think there's going to be a lot of games where their offense just beats the opposing offense.
I don't know, man. That's a big ask.
It's a big ask, but that's what happens when you strictly invest in the offense.
So, like, the thing you're outlining is that Lindor can't go into a slump. Soto can't go into a slump. McNeil needs to stay healthy and not go. Like, Alonso can't go into a slump. Like, you're pretty much saying like half this lineup can't go into a slump.
But
in order for that to happen,
it's baseball, so it's the peaks and flows of everybody. There's not going to be the one guy always. They're going to like mix and match of who's going to be in a slump, unfortunately. And I think they better not be in those prolonged slumps more than 2 or 3 guys at the same time, because we're in trouble. But I think it's going to be interesting to see year 2 with Mendoza, how he's going to be able to work the bullpen. And then they originally wanted to do a 6-man rotation. Obviously, that's not happening with 2 of the starters already banged up and hurt. So we'll see what happens. There might be some bullpen games. We don't know.
This whole thing with the Asian players that are coming over and like a whole 6-man rotation. Masahiro Tanaka figured out how to pitch every 5 days.
I agree.
Hiroki Kuroda figured out how to pitch every 5 days.
I agree.
Like, what's the issue? Figure it out.
So it's a word that gets tossed around in the NBA a lot, but I think a lot more of it now is load management. I don't necessarily think that if you ask the players themselves, they'd be unwilling to do it. But I think the clubs are looking at the data that says X number of intense pitches, X number of laborious innings is what's putting extra strain. And if we build out the roster to where we can alleviate some of that from, certain arms that are built a certain way, then we can keep our guys healthier longer. So I think it's more organizationally and kind of the fact that baseball is a copycat sport. And once one does it, another one will do it.
Like,
I'm interested.
I get what you're saying, Jay, but you're relying on a computer, right? To tell you what's up. They're taking out the human element. This is where I hate analytics so damn much, because it's like, okay, a computer can say whatever the hell it wants. It cannot factor in someone's will, determination, and drive to win or to fight through injuries, fight through pain, play through shit. You're taking out that human element, which is a big, big part of everything that happens in baseball.
Yeah, but I think the other part of it is that when you take that out, right, you don't have to deal with I think back to David Cone, right? Cone basically had his arm falling off and lied saying he could do it and he could keep pitching. Pedro Martinez, the same way. He would lie straight through his teeth to stay out there, to keep pitching. And I think that if you leave it to just the numbers, then you don't have to answer for the the backlash. And I think that for managers as well, if you go out there in your post game and why did you take him out? Well, the numbers say that after X number of pitch, his stuff falls off. His RPMs on his curveball come up. Whatever the case may be, you have an excuse, a built-in excuse there. And I think that for baseball, being the copycat sport that it is, once one does it, everybody else does it. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the Dodgers do this year with their 12-man rotation and seeing how quickly that becomes adopted by everybody else. Because I remember maybe about 10 years ago now, the Rockies were going the opposite way, and we're trying to go with a 4-man rotation. And
That's crazy to even
that
think
was
about.
like everybody was lambasting them for trying to do something different. Now, all four of those in that 4-man rotation scenario, they were basically piggybacking starters and having their relievers stretched out to be able to go multiple innings. And in doing that with the 4 starters that they had, they never pitched more than 3 innings. That was the plan. 3, maybe 4 if it was an ace caliber arm. But everybody was just completely crapping all over the idea. So I think that if a team like the Dodgers that have the financial means to be able to support an idea like a 6-man rotation
And the bullpen games were brutal.
8, right. But that's the other part of it. And I think when you have the idea of having several starters, right? So you have those 6, 7, 8 starters, and that's how you work your rotation. Almost like in Japan, you got 1 starter a week. Your Friday night starter is your Friday night starter from beginning to the end of the season. And
that'd be fun. Like, oh crap! All right, cool. I know Cole's pitching on Friday. All right, babe, I'm watching the Yankee game tonight.
Right. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how the Dodgers employ their starting rotation and how quickly other teams start to follow suit.
Well, I mean, talking about the Rockies, they are in Colorado. I mean, the air is a little thin up there, so not too much oxygen going to the brain. So,
But I'm just saying, when we see these kind of different ideas, because 6-man rotation has been talked about a lot. It's been discussed by a lot of different teams where that idea has been floated out there, but no one ever has the gall to try it.
Right.
And I think
go tell Garrett Cole he's got to wait 6 days to get back on.
Garrett Cole, Garrett Cole's the last of the breed.
He'll kill somebody
for sure. But there's pitchers that are the outlier, and Cole is one of those outliers, right? Prime Justin Verlander, you're not looking to have him go on 6 days, right? But when you have guys like Sean Manaea, who's been an injury concern, right? I think to the Dodgers rotation, Blake Snell, Tyler Glasnow, all those guys are injury concerns. You have the 3 Japanese pitchers that were used to pitching 1 day a week. You now have a built-in reason to go to a 6-man rotation. And I think for the Mets right now, obviously with 2 starters going down, it's not something that they can employ at this moment. But I think to keep those guys healthier long-term, that's the ideal scenario to go through. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how many teams really do start to employ this, given the number of injuries that
Jacob deGrom is the Rangers' 5th starter this year.
Exactly. And granted, I think that's more to kind of hold him back from himself.
Agreed.
But when you have that ability, this is a beautiful way to do it. Because I look at the Phillies rotation, right? You have Wheeler, Nola. You're going to give them the ball 6, 7 innings every time out. You have Suarez and you have Christopher Sanchez. You're expecting 4 to 6 at best from their starts, and then Luzardo working back from an injury. If you get 4 to 5, you're good, right? But because you have those 2 guys at the front, you can play around with the rest of the starting rotation in your bullpen without burning out the bullpen, because at least 2 of those guys are giving you 5 to 6 to 7 innings a start. With the Yankees and Garrett Cole, Garrett's going to go out there and try to give you 7, 8, 9 every single time out.
Mm-hmm.
Max Fried's going to go out there and try
rare breed now. He's basically extinct.
Exactly. So they're a rare breed
after
now.
him,
where most of
there's
these guys,
no one left.
Exactly. Most of these guys, you're looking for 5 and fly at best. So if you can piggyback starts, if you can go through and do a 6-man rotation and have that to where you can kind of give those, mid-rotation arms more of a break, more of a rest, more of ability to rebound and train themselves into getting to that way, I think we can see a change in the sport where maybe we do see less injuries. because maybe that effort, that max effort on every single time, if you get that extra day of rest where you shut it down after your start, and now instead of shutting it down for 1 day and then starting to pick back up, you now shut down for 2 days. Now, how does the body respond to that? To me, it's an interesting thing to see how pitching is going to shake out this year, especially leading into a potential, new CBA negotiation. So
For sure.
it's definitely going to be an interesting thing. So as we kind of bring it to a close here, Dan, using the title of this series, where do you see the state of the franchise for the Mets?
They are in a playoff contention, unfortunately going to fall short once again because the pitching, like we've mentioned throughout this whole show, and unfortunately the best team in all of baseball is the number one team in the league. So unfortunately, if the Mets' highest ceiling would be NLCS again, but they would have to be facing the Dodgers, and everybody else they can hang around with. Unfortunately, if the Dodgers are healthy again with their pitching staff and Mookie Betts and Friedman and Shohei Ohtani all in that lineup, and Hernandez is still there, can he have another bounce back? Another season from him bouncing back last year? It's going to be tough to beat. So I think the ceiling is NLCS again. The floor is wild card round, and hopefully our pitchers are better than the pitchers we're facing and getting clutch hitting in the playoffs for that 3-game series.
No doubt, man. I think it's going to be a fun year, especially, having Yankee fans and Met fans, constantly bantering and clamoring at one another all season long for sure. So
they all know who runs this city. So
that's it.
That's it.
Bronx town, baby.
It's fine. Like that's just a narrative from WFAN. It's fine.
Yeah.
Buddy, don't get me started on your cronies over at WFAN that think like the Mets are the best thing since Jesus Christ walked this planet.
That's just Loogie.
No, it's all of them. It's Lacata. It's
Sal. Yeah, Sal does it for effect.
All of them, dude. You would think like the Mets like are the Yankees. Boomer Esiason's even worse. Like it's like, dude, just stick to football.
Well, we want to thank you for joining us, Dan. We appreciate it. Let everybody know where they can get more Mets talk from you.
Follow me on Twitter at Dan Behan. You're going to get all the New York sports reactions quickly there. And then I have a podcast on Sunday nights called Thunder and Lightning with my co-host Nikki. We're starting to do other sports with basketball being around and the Knicks being a functional team. So it's fun to talk about them, especially when the Giants are terrible. So during free agency and draft season, definitely check us out with more Giant content. So yeah, thanks for having me on. I hope to come back later in the year, just regularly talk baseball. I'm sorry with the regular baseball ranting tonight. I know it was supposed to be more Mets, but I just love talking baseball. So I appreciate you guys having me on.
No, we love it here. I mean, that's why the channel is entitled the way it is, Baseball Banter Broadcast.
Right.
That's what we're doing. And we love the game. So without a doubt, we appreciate you jumping on with us to talk some Mets, to talk some baseball.
All right, boys. Appreciate it.
So as we bring it to a close here, we want to thank you guys for joining us. If you're joining us on the YouTube side of things, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and the bell for post notifications, as it does continue to help us build and grow this baseball community here. And if you haven't already, make sure you check out the description for our link tree that has all the pertinence to our merch shop, sponsor links, including our new affiliate partnership with Topps. We are honored to be a part of the Topps family. So wherever you want to get your sports trading cards from, make sure you check out our link in the description below. Check out our social platforms. We're all on every single one of those platforms, and our audio side. And if you're listening on the audio side, make sure you leave a 5-star rating and review as we continue to try to build and grow this community. So for Dave, I am Jeremy Laracuente, and this has been the state of the Mets franchise for 2025. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.